Hi, I'm Jordan, 31, and 7 years after finally escaping the most chaotic relationship of my life, my ex showed up on my porch with a kid, a bill, and the confidence of someone who thinks reality is optional. I wish I were exaggerating. That morning started stupidly normal. I was in the kitchen tightening a cabinet hinge and enjoying the kind of silence you only get after marrying the right person. My wife, Kara, was curled up on the couch looking at paint samples, humming softly. Then the doorbell rang. One ring. Short. Sharp. Not friendly. I opened it expecting a delivery. Instead, I got a ghost. Belle Morgan. My ex from 7 years ago, the one who'd once accused my sister's lipstick of being evidence of cheating, trashed our apartment, blocked me on everything, and disappeared so completely she may as well have walked into the ocean. She looked almost the same. Maybe a little more tired around the eyes, more frantic around the edges. But the same sharp stare that always made me feel like I was being judged for something I hadn't done yet. Next to her stood a boy. 6 or 7. Small. Quiet. Backpack slung over one shoulder like he was being dropped off for his first day of school outside a stranger's house. Jordan, she said. Not hello. Not hey. Just my name, like an accusation. I didn't move. Didn't smile. Didn't even open the screen door fully. What do you want, Belle? She pulled the boy closer, hand clasped around his shoulder like she was presenting a prize she'd won in a rigged carnival game. This is Keegan, she announced with theatrics. Your son. The son you walked away from. My jaw didn't drop. My heart didn't race. I didn't even blink. Because unlike her, I remember history correctly. You walked away, I said flatly. Say it right. Belle's expression tightened like a rubber band about to snap. You abandoned us, she shot back. I had to struggle alone. I had to track you down through old contacts and public records. You disappeared. You blocked me, I said. On everything. You left. You never contacted me. Not once. She didn't acknowledge a single word. Instead, she reached into her bag and shoved a stack of papers at my chest. This, she snapped, is what you owe me. I unfolded them. A handwritten bill. In marker. On loose-leaf notebook paper. The charges? Backdated relationship compensation, $14,000. Missed birthdays, $700. Child expenses, $52,000. Pain and suffering fee, $25,000. A total of $91,700. She stared at me like she expected me to pull out my wallet right there on the porch. I looked up at her. This is the first thing you've given me in 7 years? It's the minimum, she said. You should be grateful I came in person instead of going straight to court. Behind me, Kara's footsteps approached, calm, steady, unbothered. Belle's eyes flicked to her and froze. So this is her, she said venomously. The wife. Yes, I said. This is Kara. Belle squared her shoulders. You played house with someone else while I raised our son alone. If he's my child, I said, we'll handle that properly. Legally. But not like this. Not with a handwritten ransom note. So you're calling me a liar? I'm saying we do a DNA test. Her face twisted. Typical, she hissed. You always tried to act above me. You think talking calmly makes you right. No, I said. Facts do. Keegan peeked up at me then, silent, confused, clearly used to being pulled into storms he didn't create. My chest tightened for him, not for her. Belle wasn't finished. You'll regret dragging this out. The court will see what you did. No, I said. They'll see what you did. She yanked Keegan's hand, stomped down my steps, and shot me a glare that could curdle milk. This isn't over. She spat. Then she left. I watched her old sedan rattle down the street. Inside, Kara wrapped an arm around my waist. You okay? She asked. I nodded. She wants a fight. I said. She'll get one. Just not the kind she thinks. I expected Belle to go quiet for a little while. I figured she'd stomp around, throw dramatic monologues into her steering wheel, maybe scream into a smoothie cup, whatever she did to process chaos. Instead, 2 weeks later I got a fat, aggressively stapled packet in the mail. 3 filings. Not 1. Not 2. 3. Belle had gone full legal sprinkler system, spraying accusations in every direction hoping one would hit me square in the face. Claim number 1, child support and abandonment. She wrote that I knowingly deserted my family, which was impressive because you typically need a family first. Claim number 2, promised marriage and financial obligation. A relic law our state abolished before Instagram existed. Claim number 3, harassment. Apparently I had stalked and intimidated her, while she was the one banging on my door demanding money. It was like reading 3 entirely different novels written by someone who never met me but hated my haircut. I didn't panic. I called Calvin Rhodes, corporate contract attorney turned personal savior. I'd worked with him at my company before. Smart. Surgical. Zero tolerance for nonsense. He flipped through the filings with the same expression people get when they find a raisin in what they thought was a chocolate chip cookie. She's tossing wet noodles at the wall, he said. Nothing here sticks. Then he looked up at me, dead serious. Don't respond to her directly. Don't message her. Don't explain yourself. You let me do everything. I nodded. Easy. Calvin asked for every screenshot, date, memory, scrap of evidence I had from the night she left. I dumped everything into a Drive folder within an hour. Old texts where she blocked me. Screenshots of her social media where she moved, twice, without a word. Jenna's testimony about the lipstick incident. Timestamps. Gaps. Everything. Calvin organized it chronologically, color-coded, labeled like an accountant with a vendetta. He was ready. Then something unexpected happened. I got a message request on an account name I didn't recognize. T_Bennett 1993. The message began. Jordan, it's Tori. We used to know each other through Belle. Please don't block me. I'm not here to start anything. Tori. Belle's old friend. The one who used to sit with us sometimes at parties and make quiet, sarcastic comments under her breath. I replied. What do you want? Tori answered almost immediately. I'm sorry. I didn't know Belle was blaming you for Keegan. I didn't know she was telling people you abandoned her. But you need to know. Keegan might not be yours. My phone nearly slipped out of my hand. She sent screenshots. Dozens. Private conversations between her and Belle from years ago. One message from Belle. Logan's been coming over a lot. I think I messed up, but Jordan will be a better father. Another. If it's Logan's, he won't step up. Jordan always fixes things. Another. He doesn't need the details. I'll just say it happened before I left. And several voice notes, Belle admitting she didn't know who the father was. Not once. Not twice. Repeatedly. I forwarded everything to Calvin. He called immediately. This changes everything. And not in her favor. He filed a motion showing Belle's disappearance. Her blocking me. Tori's messages. Proof she moved without contact. Screenshots of her uncertainty about the father. My consistent address. My lack of knowledge about any pregnancy. Her contradictory statements. All lies contained in her claims. He asked the court for a DNA test. Belle was about to implode. And she did. Almost artistically. Because the moment the judge ordered the DNA test, Belle began dodging it with the agility of a caffeinated squirrel. Excuse number 1. Keegan is sick. Excuse number 2. My work schedule won't allow it. Excuse number 3. I have no transportation. Excuse number 4. Keegan is too anxious. Excuse number 5. I'm waiting for the right moon phase. Okay, she didn't say that one, but she might as well have. 3 weeks of ducking, dodging, stalling, whining. Finally, Judge Arlen Shaw, who had the patience of a saint but the expression of a man done with everyone's nonsense, issued a court-mandated date with a court officer present. Belle had no escape route left. She showed up with Keegan, looking like she was being forced to attend her own accountability. "He looks just like you," she muttered as we sat in the waiting room. "DNA will tell us," I said calmly. She rolled her eyes. "You always hide behind facts." We swabbed. It took 2 minutes. Belle acted like we were performing medieval torture. 2 weeks later, Calvin called me. His tone was almost bored. 0% paternity. You're not the father. I didn't feel joy. Or anger. Just clarity. Calvin scheduled the next hearing. Belle wasn't ready. But she was about to learn the universe doesn't run on vibes. The day of the hearing felt like the eye of a storm. Not the quiet, peaceful kind. The kind where you know the second half is going to be worse. Belle arrived early, pacing the hallway like a malfunctioning Roomba. Hair messy, blazer crooked, eyes wild, not angry, but cornered. She didn't bring Keegan. Good. He didn't deserve any of this. Inside the courtroom, Judge Arlen Shaw entered with the same energy as someone who has seen every flavor of human nonsense and refuses to taste another bite. Calvin handed him the DNA results. The judge read them, set them down, folded his hands. His voice was calm, even, surgical. Mess. "Morgan, the test shows a 0% probability that Mr. Hale is the biological father. There is no genetic link." Belle blinked. Then blinked again, like she was waiting for the words to rearrange themselves into a version she preferred. "No," she said finally. "Run it again." The judge didn't even sigh. He just stared. "It is conclusive," he repeated. "They mixed the samples," she shouted. "You don't understand. Keegan looks like him." The judge raised an eyebrow. "I have the report right here. This is not up for debate." Belle's breathing got fast. Sharp. A panic building into frenzy. "You're wrong!" she yelled. "Something's wrong! Jordan is supposed to be the father. He was supposed to fix this." There it was. The real truth. Not biology. Not responsibility. Not love. She wanted me to fix her life. Before she could ramp up further, the bailiff opened the side door. "Witness Logan Price." Belle froze. Like someone hit pause on her entire nervous system. Logan Price walked in. Tall. Tired. Clearly done with everything. He raised a hand slightly. "Judge Shaw," he said, voice steady but drained. "I'm here because I was subpoenaed. I provided an affidavit confirming I was seeing Ms. Morgan around the time Keegan would have been conceived." Belle snapped out of her stupor. "Logan, don't do this. You don't know what you're saying." Logan looked at her with a kind of exhausted disappointment. "No, Belle. I do. If Keegan's mine, I'll deal with it. But you don't get to push it onto Jordan just because he's a better man than me." The courtroom went silent. Then Belle pointed at me, at Logan, at the judge, at everyone, finger trembling with rage. "You're all against me. All of you. You don't know what he did to me." Judge Shaw lifted a hand. "What I see," he said evenly, "is consistent evidence you blocked him, misrepresented your relationship, and made claims that contradict the documented timeline." Belle shook her head violently. "You can't take Keegan's father away from him. He was never the father," the judge said. "The DNA confirms that." She clutched the edges of the counsel table like she needed it to breathe. "He's supposed to be," she screamed. "He always fixes things. Logan doesn't fix anything." Logan winced. I stayed silent. The judge tapped his pen once. "Ms. Morgan, this case is closed. Mr. Hale is dismissed permanently from all claims. The court will contact you regarding appropriate next steps for determining paternity and custody with the biological father." Belle broke. Right there. Right in front of everyone. A piercing, raw scream. The kind that has nothing to do with justice or truth. Only loss of control. The gavel came down. Calvin put a hand on my shoulder. "It's over," he said quietly. "But people like Belle don't accept over. They treat it like a suggestion." When I stepped out of that courtroom, I didn't know yet. The real spiral was just beginning. I thought the courtroom meltdown would be Belle's final boss battle. A dramatic exit, maybe a tearful monologue, then she'd vanish into the mist like a chaotic Disney villain. But Belle didn't vanish. She mutated. 24 hours after the ruling, Calvin forwarded me an email Belle sent him. "Jordan caused emotional damage to Keegan by forcing a DNA test. He traumatized my son. He should pay for therapy." Calvin replied with a single sentence. "Mr. Hale bears no legal responsibility for your client's child or your client's emotional state. All claims denied." That should have been the end. But Belle doesn't understand endings. She only understands escalation. The next target on her list was Kara. One night, Kara held up her phone with the expression of someone who just found a raccoon in the fridge. "Jordan, look at this." 6 paragraphs. No punctuation. All adrenaline. Belle accused her of stealing me, brainwashing me, turning me against my real family. And my personal favorite, that Kara used witchcraft-level manipulation to keep me from Belle. Kara read the whole thing once, shrugged, and said, "She thinks I do witchcraft? I barely do yoga." We screenshotted everything and blocked Belle. 2 days of quiet. Then came the grocery store incident. Kara called me while I was chopping vegetables. Her voice was steady, but too steady. "Jordan," she said. "She's here." She followed me down 2 aisles. I didn't need to ask who. I was out the door before the knife hit the cutting board. By the time I got to the store, Belle was screaming in the cereal aisle at full volume. "You stole him. He was supposed to marry me. You ruined my family." People were staring. Kids were clutching their parents. A box of Frosted Flakes trembled on a shelf. Kara stood calm, arms crossed like she was watching a very loud nature documentary. Security escorted Belle out while she shouted over her shoulder. "She manipulated him. She's controlling him. She turned him against me." I didn't say a word to Belle. Not one. Just walked Kara out. Calvin filed the incident report immediately. Belle didn't slow down. Next stop? My job. HR called during a meeting. "Jordan, there's a woman here insisting she speak to you. She's crying and yelling your name. Describe her." They described Belle. I took the elevator down so fast I'm pretty sure I violated physics. By the time I reached the lobby, security had already removed her from the building and HR was drafting a ban letter. The whole office watched through the glass while Belle shrieked in the parking lot like I'd personally cancelled her birthday. Then she went after my parents. My mom called me, confused and furious. "A woman named Belle called here crying saying you abandoned a child." I told her she had the wrong house and hung up. Belle called back. Mom hung up again. Belle didn't try a third time. Then she went online. Oh boy. Belle unleashed 3 emotional essays on Facebook, Instagram, and some parenting forum with a sunflower logo. Each post told a completely different story. Post 1. I cheated on her and ran off. Post 2. I left her pregnant and sobbing in the rain. Post 3. I promised to take care of Keegan and then betrayed my family. The contradictions were Olympic-level impressive. We saved every screenshot. Calvin sent takedown notices. Each post vanished within hours. Belle reposted new versions. We removed those too. For 2 days, she spiraled online like a digital tornado. Rage posts, victim posts, deleted posts, sudden Bible quotes, then back to rage again. Calvin called me. "We're done playing defense. Filing a no-contact order." He submitted everything. The grocery store incident. HR/security reports. Online harassment. Her messages to Kara. Attempts to contact my parents. Her accusations. Her meltdown at the courthouse. The DNA results. The pattern of instability. The judge approved a temporary no-contact order in 48 hours. Police delivered the warning to Belle in person. For the first time since she showed up on my porch, the world went quiet. 3 days. 3 entire days. Then Thursday night happened. Kara and I were watching a show when someone started pounding on the door. Not knocking. Pounding. Boom. 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 I checked the camera. Belle. Mascara streaked. Hair a mess. Screaming my name like she wanted to summon me through the wood. Jordan! Open! I'm hurt. You have to help me. Then, she threw herself halfway down the porch steps, shrieking like she'd been pushed. Kara whispered, "She's faking an injury to break the order." I didn't open the door. Not even a crack. I called the police. When the officers arrived, Belle tried telling them I attacked her and locked her outside. I handed them the camera footage. No contact. No approach. Just her screaming at a closed door and dramatically flopping on the stairs like a damp towel. The officers confronted her. "You're violating a no-contact order. One more incident could result in arrest." Belle went silent. Not calm. Just quiet in that dangerous, humiliated way. They took her statement. Filed a report. Escorted her away. Kara and I watched from inside. When the patrol car pulled off, she leaned her head on my shoulder. "You handled all of this better than anyone could," she murmured. "I'm just glad it's over." I wanted to believe that. But with Belle? "It's over" is never the end. It's the cliff right before the fall. Belle didn't disappear after the police incident. She deflated. Like someone finally punctured the chaos balloon she'd been floating around in. For the first time in months, she stopped screaming into the void. She didn't show up at work. Didn't post on social media. Didn't appear at the grocery store to accuse Kara of witchcraft again. Quiet. Dead quiet. And that kind of quiet from someone like Belle? Terrifying. I kept expecting the next explosion. But instead, we got something worse. A slow collapse. It started 3 days after the porch incident. Calvin called. "Jordan, there's movement on her case." My stomach tightened. "What kind of movement?" "A lot," he said. "And none of it looks good for her." First, Logan had requested his own DNA test for Keegan. Calvin sent the paperwork. Then Logan's test came back. 99.9% probability. He is the biological father. Calvin told me with a completely neutral tone. "So yes, Keegan is definitely Logan's kid." Which doesn't shock me. I wished it didn't hurt. But it did. Not because I wanted the kid to be mine. But because Belle had dragged a child for years through lies he had no say in. A week later, Logan filed for custodial review, stating that Belle had intentionally misidentified the father, refused to contact him, emotionally manipulated both the child and others, repeatedly endangered Keegan's stability. Then Belle's own family stepped in. Her older sister reached out to Calvin privately. I only heard her name, Marla, but apparently she'd been keeping her distance from Belle for years. She told Calvin, and I quote, "My sister has been lying about the father since the day Keegan was born. She never contacted the real one. She told everyone it was Jordan because he had a future." She also provided screenshots from years back. Belle saying the same thing she told Tori. That I'd clean up her mess. Because I was responsible and wouldn't fight. Marla's statement was added to the ongoing custody review. Belle's legal foundation didn't just crack. It was collapsing like a wet cardboard box. And then, the part one still struggled to talk about. 2 Fridays after the police incident, I got a message request on an account I didn't recognize. From Belle. The moment I saw her name, I felt that old familiar cold spike. I didn't answer. But she kept typing. Three dots. Stop. Three dots. Stop. Finally, a message appeared. Jordan, please. I need help. Another. You're the only person who ever loved me. Another. I can't do this. They're taking everything. I can't breathe. Please just talk to me. My lungs felt like someone had put a hand around them. I didn't reply. Calvin saw the messages, screenshots I forwarded immediately. He called me in under 30 seconds. Jordan. Listen carefully. Do not reply. Do not acknowledge. Your safety comes first. Then he added, and I'm sending these straight to the judge. Today. Belle kept messaging. Some were apologies. Some were self-pity. Some were begging for me to tell the court she wasn't that bad. Then the tone shifted. Sharp. Vengeful. Accusatory. You ruined my life. You stole my future. You turned Keegan against me. You'll pay for this. 30 minutes later, another message. I'm outside. I froze. Checked the cameras. She wasn't there. But the pit in my stomach stayed. Calvin moved fast. He filed for an emergency hearing on the no-contact escalation. The court reviewed the new evidence. All her messages, her porch stunt, her online harassment, the meltdown at the grocery store, everything. 3 days later. The order was upgraded to a full restraining order. 2 years minimum. Immediate arrest for any contact. The judge also added a clause I had never seen before. Belle was prohibited from posting anything about me, Kara, or the case on any public forum. Violation equals contempt of court. When that ruling came through, Calvin called me with a rare tone of satisfaction. She's out of moves, Jordan. This is over legally, socially, financially, every angle. I felt relief. Real relief. But also something heavier. Sadness. Because for all her chaos, Belle was still the person I once tried to build a life with. The girl I once excused. Defended. Forgave too many times. Kara found me sitting on the edge of the bed that night, staring at nothing. You're thinking about Keegan, she said softly. I nodded. He didn't ask for any of this. No, she said. He didn't. We sat in silence for a while. Then Kara took my hand. You didn't fail him. You followed the truth. You protected him from being raised in a lie. It helped. More than I realized then. A week later, I got one final update. Logan reached out to Calvin. Belle was entering a treatment program on the recommendation of her attorney. Not because she wanted help, but because the court required stability for any future custody arrangements. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't punishment. It was consequences. For the first time in 7 years. And while I'll never say I'm grateful for the chaos Belle brought back into my life, I am grateful for how it ended. Because for the first time since college, the chapter finally felt closed. Belle vanished from our lives after the restraining order, but the echoes of her chaos didn't disappear overnight. The house still felt tense for a while. Every unexpected knock made me pause. Every unfamiliar car on the street made Kara glance out the window twice. But slowly, really slowly, things settled. The first real sign of peace was absurdly small. A quiet Saturday morning with pancakes and no interruptions. No doorbell. No angry messages. No legal emails. Just us. In our kitchen. Like normal people. You'd be surprised how healing, normal, can feel when your life's been a crime documentary for months. A month after the restraining order, Logan reached out through Calvin and asked if I'd be willing to talk, not about Belle, but about Keegan. The idea unnerved me at first. I didn't want to be dragged back into anything. But Calvin read Logan's message before passing it on. He's not trying to involve you. He wants to apologize. I agreed. We met in a quiet corner of a coffee shop. No lawyers. No tension. Just two guys connected by the wreckage of the same storm. Logan sat down, exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for years, and said the first words that mattered. You didn't deserve any of this. He wasn't defensive. He wasn't awkward. He wasn't blaming anyone. He told me everything. Belle had kept him at a distance, feeding him just enough connection to keep him around but never enough truth to force responsibility. By the time Keegan was born, she told him he'd only complicate things. He believed her. He walked away. Not because he didn't care, but because Belle engineered it that way. And the thing that got me? He wasn't asking for forgiveness. He was asking for clarity. How did you survive her? He asked, voice quiet. I thought about that for a long moment. I left, I said. And then I never looked back. He nodded like that answer hit harder than anything else. Before we parted, he said, I'm stepping up now. Properly. Keegan deserves someone who won't run just because she built a lie. I believed him. He looked like a man carrying something heavy, but he was carrying it willingly. Sometimes that's all a kid needs. Life moved on after that. Kara and I found our rhythm again. We traveled a little. Hosted game nights. Even started looking at filling the guest room with something other than spare furniture and boxes. Peace is strange. You don't notice when it leaves. But you definitely notice when it comes back. And the best part? Belle never resurfaced. Not once. The court order held. She stayed in treatment for several months. Then custody proceedings with Logan moved forward without me anywhere in the picture. Exactly where I wanted to be. Exactly where I should be. A year later, I heard from Tori again, brief update. Belle was stable. Co-parenting was structured. Keegan was doing better in school. Logan was showing up. And Belle wasn't spiraling. I didn't need more than that. I didn't want more than that. Closure doesn't always look like a perfect ending. Sometimes it's just absence. Absence of chaos. Absence of fear. Absence of someone else's storm in your life. Kara and I eventually turned that guest room into a small office and, later, a nursery. Not because of pressure or fear or obligation, but because we had space now. Real space. For a future built on respect, trust, and calm, not survival. Sometimes I think about the kid Belle brought to my porch. Not as a ghost haunting me, but as a reminder of how close I came to being trapped in a life that wasn't mine. And how choosing myself, finally, saved more than just me. It saved the life I built. It saved the family I chose. And maybe, just maybe, it ended up saving hers too. Peace didn't settle all at once. It snuck back into our lives in small, careful pieces. Like the world was testing whether it was finally safe to exhale. But the truth is, even after the legal dust settled, I still carried one heavy question. What happens to Keegan now? Not because I wanted involvement. Not because I wanted to step in. But because, for a brief moment on my porch, he looked at me with the eyes of a kid who had no idea why adults were tearing the world apart around him. A month after Logan and I talked, I got an unexpected call from Calvin. Jordan, he said, there's something you should be aware of. Not legally, just humanly. He told me Logan had formally petitioned for shared custody. Supervised at first. Structured. Measured. Belle fought it at first, loudly, but eventually agreed after her attorney explained the alternative was far worse. A child in the middle of chaos becomes evidence. A child in the middle of structure becomes safe. Then Calvin told me something that hit harder than I expected. Logan asked if he could send you a message. Not from Belle. From him. And it's not about responsibility, it's about gratitude. I hesitated. Part of me wanted nothing to do with anything remotely connected to Belle ever again. But something about the way Calvin phrased it felt important. I agreed. Logan's message was short. Not emotional. Not dramatic. Just honest. Thank you. If you hadn't stood your ground, I might never have stepped up. He deserved better. I'm going to be that for him now. I stared at that message for a long time. Not because I needed his thanks, but because, for the first time since this nightmare started, someone wasn't pulling me into their storm, they were pulling themselves out of it. Meanwhile, Belle was quiet. Truly quiet. Tori told us, carefully, that Belle was going through counseling as part of the custody arrangement. Not optional. Not short-term. A full program, monitored by the court. Apparently Belle was forced to confront years of her own behavior, lies, and control issues. According to Tori, the early sessions were rough. Lots of denial. Lots of rationalizing. Lots of, everyone else hurt me. But slowly, painfully, she began acknowledging her part in the wreckage. Not for me. Not for Logan. For Keegan. Sometimes, that's the only person who gets someone to change. Kara and I kept living our lives. Working. Planning trips. Building the home we actually wanted. But one moment stands out like a photograph burned into memory. I was cleaning the garage when Kara walked in holding a small box. "What's this?" she asked. Inside were old photos from my college years. Things I hadn't looked at in forever. One picture included Belle, a time when things were still sweet, before everything sour settled in. Kara sat beside me. "Do you want to throw it away?" she asked softly. I looked at the photo for a long moment, then placed it back in the box. "No," I said. "It's not who I am anymore. But it's part of how I learned who I want to be." Kara smiled, the quiet kind that says she understands even the things I don't say out loud. We put the box back on the shelf, closed, but not hidden. Some chapters shouldn't be erased. But they shouldn't be reread either. Months passed. The restraining order held. Belle stayed away. Keegan started therapy. Logan stepped fully into fatherhood. And me? I finally slept without checking the front camera twice. For the first time in my adult life, peace wasn't something I was hoping for. It was something I had. The real ending didn't arrive with a bang. It came gently. Quietly. Almost unnoticed. Exactly the opposite of how the chaos began. 3 more months passed, and one afternoon, when the sun was dipping low and turning the living room gold, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. Normally I'd ignore it. But something in me said answer. "Hello?" I said. A pause. A breath. Then a voice I hadn't heard in years, softer than I remembered. "Jordan, it's Belle." I didn't say anything. Didn't react. Just listened. She continued, voice thin, stripped of every ounce of the swagger she once had. "I'm allowed to make one call, supervised. I'm not asking for anything. I just want to say, I'm sorry." The room seemed to freeze. She took a shaky breath. "I lied. About everything. About you leaving. About the timeline. About why I chose you." Another breath. "You were the safe one. You were the one who would have stayed. You were the only person I could manipulate into loving me." Her voice cracked. And that wasn't love. That was me being broken. I still said nothing. She kept going. "I know you won't forgive me. I don't want you to. I just want you to know Keegan's okay. Logan's doing good with him. Better than I ever let him. And I'm trying. For the first time." The silence stretched between us. I finally spoke. "Belle, I hope you get the help you need. But don't contact me again." A small, resigned exhale. "I won't," she whispered. "I promise." The call ended. And with it, any lingering thread between us. Life after closure isn't cinematic. It doesn't explode with fireworks or melodrama. It's subtle. I stopped checking over my shoulder. Kara stopped tensing when the doorbell rang. The air in our home felt lighter, warmer, like the walls themselves had unclenched. We finished the guest room. Soft gray walls, oak furniture, warm light. One day, as I tightened the last screw on the dresser, Kara sat beside me and said, "You know, you'd make a good dad." I didn't respond immediately. Not because I doubted it, but because for the first time in my life, the idea felt real. Not forced. Not tied to manipulation. Not demanded by chaos. But something I could choose freely. "We'll do it right," she added, touching my hand. "Not perfect, just right." And in that moment, I felt something shift inside me. The final echo of the past faded. The future opened. 1 year later, Kara handed me a tiny white stick with shaking hands. 2 lines. My legs almost gave out. Not from fear. Not from pressure. From the overwhelming realization. This child would be born into stability, not survival. Into love, not lies. Into a home, not a battleground. We didn't tell many people at first. Just the ones who mattered. The ones who showed up in the quiet parts of life, not the dramatic ones. The nursery we built was soft, warm, full of gentle colors and small hopes. The night before our daughter was born, I sat alone for a moment, thinking about how close I came to having my life rewritten by someone else's choices. If I'd said yes to Belle's accusations, if I'd backed down, if I'd tried to fix things that weren't mine to fix, my future would have been stolen. Instead, I learned the most important lesson of my life. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from a storm that isn't yours. Because the life waiting on the other side was worth every difficult step. Our daughter arrived on a Tuesday morning. Tiny. Perfect. Peaceful. As I held her for the first time, I whispered something she'll never remember, but I'll never forget. "This is the life we choose. Not the one forced on us." Kara leaned her head on my shoulder. And for the first time in years, no chaos. No fear. No unfinished business. Just us. A family we built by choice. Not by manipulation, guilt, or lies. A life defined not by what we escaped, but by what we created. And that is how the story ends. Not in fire, but in peace.